Today I'm going to introduce you to my felting machine. It's got 12 needles, it's by Simplicity, and it's also known as an embellisher. Fantastic for adding texture to pieces and for fusing fabrics together to make your own fabric. So I'm going to do a little project today and just to make a couple of little tiny handmade abstract brooches. I'm using lots of different types of fabric, some lovely satin and some pre-felted wool and a few other little bits and bobs like some silk and some sari silk and things like that. And you can see when I put this through the machine that it makes a different texture depending on the different fabric that I use. This here is the satin. You can see it sort of ruches it up and makes this gorgeous sort of crinkly effect. This is really inexpensive fabric and it's great if you can find clothes that are made out of this fabric, but it's so cheap to buy anyway. Now there are 12 needles that puncture the fabric. There is no thread, so it's not like a sewing machine. It's literally just the needles. They're just felting needles that just puncture the fabric and work at really high speed. You can see there that I'm working on some stabilizer. It's actually iron-on stabilizer, but I'm not ironing the fabric onto it because obviously I want the machine to do that job for me. So here is some sari silk and just some regular silk, beautiful colours, and they work really nicely together, very sort of reminiscent of Caribbean sea almost. And you can see the way that goes into the background there. It sort of stays put because the fibres are sort of pushed through to the back of the stabilizer, and obviously you can use other backgrounds to the felting, to the embellishing, wool, pretty much any fabric as a background, as long as there's enough for the machine to be able to puncture the needles. So you do have to be careful not to use too thick a fabric because you don't want to break a needle. And some of the silk, when you hear the machine working, you can tell that it's working a little bit harder than normal. But it still works quite well with that silk. So what I'm doing is just embellishing the felted wool onto it next, and you can see on the other side of it how that goes. So wool works absolutely beautifully because obviously we felt with that all the time, don't we? Now you can get a similar effect to this by using normal felting needles. It just takes a lot longer. It's so much easier to do it, so much quicker to do it using a machine, but obviously they're not particularly readily available these days. But I do have a small clover tool, and I'll put a link to that below because they're actually quite effective at doing the same thing, and they're fantastic for making up brooches, for adding different textures and different fabrics onto background fabric as well. So I will link that below so that you can see what that looks like too. So the felt there, just adding that on, that makes an absolutely lovely background, and you can see that it stuck pretty fast. I wouldn't leave it like this completely. I would add a few stitches to it. So with this particular project I'm going to add a few stitches at the end, but you can see on the other side of the stabilizer that the top fabric is being pushed all the way through, so it is pretty stable. It does hold it in place quite well. You can see it doesn't peel off automatically. So there are a few little fabrics that I've put onto the stabilizer. What I'm going to do is add some little bits on top of that as well. Now this is such a fantastic project for using up your odds and ends, so your absolute tiny pieces of scrap fabric. It's great for recycling and upcycling your clothes. If you just wanted to maybe reuse a little bit of some fabric that you got maybe in a dress and the dress wasn't any good anymore, but you really liked the fabric, you like the colours on it, it's great for just adding a few little snippets here and there. Maybe add a pop of colour to a brooch or some jewellery that you can then add to another project. So what I'm doing is just adding a few more bits and bobs, including some of my orts, onto the top of what I've just done. I've got this gorgeous wool that my sister gave me, and I've just cut out the bit that I'm interested in, and I'm going to use that for the brooch. So I just embellish all those little bits together, just add the bits on top. You can see that's worked really well going through the stabilizer, and then I've cut them up and then reassembled it again so that it just makes a really interesting abstract shape. And then what I'm going to do is, as you can see, just cut around that. So what I'm going to do then is just add a little bit of top stitching to it, and I thought it might be a nice idea to sort of make some of that red that I'd added from the orts, make it pop a little bit. So I thought I'd add a few little buttons, and I've got these gorgeous little buttons hidden away in one of my pots, and then I'm going to add some brooch backs to the back of it. So I'll do all that and then here you go, this is the final result. So I've got two really cute little brooches. It took no time at all to make them. Started off as just some random fabric and I fused that together, and now I've got two gorgeous little brooches. I thought that one was quite reminiscent of some little trees, so I enjoyed adding the little green buttons to that. And this one I just wanted to stay quite abstract, so just added a few little buttons and a few little crosses using that embroidery thread. So I hope you've enjoyed seeing this, and if you have, do give me a thumbs up, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care, bye.